Well, hello. Today's first podcast where it's a Spooktober podcast. Stick around, and after we talk about news and stuff, we're going to talk about some horrifying moments in comic book history that Boom and I have handpicked for ourselves to talk about some of our favorite moments. But for now, here's the news. So, Boom, we've been suffering as fans of our comic book movies. I mean, first we had Marvel delay all of their freaking movies.
All of them back like a half year at the least.
Yeah. And then, and you know, those were still pretty, we're still gonna get those movies next year, right?
I wasn't worried about it.
At least Black Widow, right? We'll be getting next year. But I would say at this moment in time, I'm anticipating DC movies more because we had the whole fandom and it got me pretty hyped. Mm-hmm. So the Batman has been delayed, and it was going to come out October 1st of 2021. It's now coming out March 4th, 2022.
Such a weird time for it to come out.
No, it truthfully is. It's interesting because now The Flash is also going to come out later on that same year. So
yeah, and well, I'm thinking about it in terms of not necessarily like the scheduling of it, but for like the other movies, but like the release window of it, because obviously the Batman was being released in October for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like the time of year where murder mysteries and like darker stories tend to come out.
Yeah, and I mean, if it's a long Halloween, then you know.
Yeah, and March tells me that they're now shifting to sell it as a summer blockbuster.
And I wonder if that's a pull. I mean, it probably is, right? A
stunt like to a make late more money. Spring or early summer type beat.
Yeah, to make more money. I mean, I get it though. You know, with the whole pandemic and with everything, they're gonna want to make their money, and I get it, but I don't want to wait any longer than I have to.
Honestly, I would be down to just wait until like that October again.
Really?
I wouldn't mind it, honestly. Well, because I want to see the Batman. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's not like I have to see that right now, right this moment. I have to see it.
Oh no, I don't feel that way. I mean, it's all within execution, right? But if they're gonna keep delaying things the way that Marvel keeps delaying things, like every 6 months, it almost feels like they just get delayed another 6 months. But the difference here is that I feel like everything is so far in advance that they're preemptively delaying things. It kind of feels like, I mean, you know, with the whole Robert Pattinson getting COVID and all that stuff, I mean, obviously they've had some setbacks, so maybe they just decided to straight up delay it. And also, I mean, look at the world we live in, so no one's really surprised, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, the world knows pain.
The world knows pain. But yeah, so then The Flash is moved from June 2nd that same year to November 4th. And that's, I mean, I feel like most superhero movies as they come out are usually, like you said, summer blockbusters. And so if The Flash is their
or like end of the year holiday films.
Right. So and the Flash feels like their Hail Mary at fixing everything.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting slot. That's a very, very interesting slot.
Honestly, if they're just gonna put it in November, move it to Christmas. This Christmas. Just make it a Christmas like movie, I guess.
Right, because at that point it's like this Thanksgiving, and it's not even Thanksgiving.
No, yeah. Or they could put it on like that weekend, right?
Yeah, of course.
But I mean, I think that would only work assuming that COVID isn't nearly as like prevalent a thing that it is now. Because the whole point of like the Thanksgiving weekend is for people to get together and then run out in droves to buy things on cheap and hurt each other.
Black Friday, yeah.
So obviously, anyone with a brain isn't gonna do that this year. We'll see what happens next year. Because that was the whole point of like this Thanksgiving movies. Was people are going to be out anyways, they may as well see a movie while they're at it.
Yeah, for sure. And that's something that it's a marketing ploy, right?
Yeah. But with
to get people
a Christmas time slot, hey yo, let's go out with the family post Christmas present openings and we'll go see a flick.
And honestly, Boom, I wouldn't mind. Now that we're having this conversation, I wouldn't mind, you know, it being cold outside, right? Just open some presents and then going and sit down in a seat to watch to watch the Batman. That doesn't sound.
That's a good time slot
That
like
doesn't
release window too for Batman.
that doesn't sound too bad. I mean, now that we're having this conversation, I'm like, maybe they should just put it in
There's a right
December.
time for everything, and there's especially a right time for movies.
I don't know. Here's how I feel though. I don't know that. I almost feel like the Batman and the Flash should switch slots because
You think so?
The Flash, again, and I think we've said this before, but the Flash is DC's Hail Mary to bring them back to par, and so that needs to be a summer blockbuster. That needs to, because summer is when you make your most money because kids are out of school or what have you. So that needs to be put like at the end of May or something. Right, because you want that movie to be seen. You want people to see that this is what's happening now in the extended universe. And in the Batman being, as far as we know, like an Elseworld story, right, should be, like you said, in that between that fall and winter time slot, because it's a murder mystery as far as we're concerned. As far as we know, it's a murder mystery, and it's gonna be one of those things that you're gonna want to sit down and see, like you said, after you've opened some presents, after it's as a family thing, because it's the Batman, and it's that time of year where you just end up hanging out with your family because there's holiday after holiday after holiday. So that's just how I kind of feel.
And well, I'm like wondering why everything's getting delayed. Obviously, it's COVID related,
Of course,
but like the exact reason, because Marvel, we know everything's getting delayed because Bob Iger doesn't want to release these movies. He specifically doesn't want to release Black Widow without it being a theatrical release.
And I get it, man.
So everything is getting shifted back. And I get it. That's their reason. But I'm curious what DC's reason, or I guess Warner Brothers' reason, is for moving everything back.
I would actually like to put my hat in the ring here with that situation. Here's the thing, right? DC has been notorious lately for making poor decisions, for rushing things out of the box or whatever. Marvel has been notorious for making the right moves, the right chess plays during their seasons, whenever they're releasing things and all that. And so maybe this is the turning point. Maybe DC is the one who's making the right decisions. Maybe they're learning from their mistakes, and Marvel is just trying to play catch up with the fact that fans don't like the idea of a Fast and Furious version of Black Widow, like, because it doesn't seem cool. Like, it doesn't seem appealing, while the Batman is extremely appealing. Everyone loved it. Lots of positive reactions to the trailer. The Flash is their Hail Mary. They have a lot on the plate here, so it makes a lot of sense to me why DC...
If Flash falls apart, everything else falls apart.
Right. I mean, at that point, all they have is the Batman, and that might even pull some people from seeing the Batman, because they're like, oh, the Flash sucked. The Batman's gonna have to do good.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, the Batman was, vice versa, because the Batman is coming out before the Flash. But I mean, every movie after that, even, because after the Flash, we have Shazam coming out, June 2nd of 2023. So my thing is that, like, I don't know, Shazam isn't exactly one of those big grabbers right now, because Shazam is, while I do like him as a character in the comics, and I do like him in, like, Young Justice and all the animated movies I've seen, he's not exactly Superman. People aren't gonna fly to the movies to go see that. So I mean, it's like you were saying, the Batman and the Flash. If the Flash specifically falls apart, it's over. So I don't know. I just think that they are playing their cards close to the chest. They know what they have, and they know what they have to do. And I think they're kind of, instead of a wait for it, they're kind of making choices to ensure that they get the best reactions that they need to get. Plus money is involved. So other than the Shazam delay, other than the first three, Black Adam has been completely taken off of the release schedule. It's like just not there anymore.
That was like already so far out that it kind of didn't matter. I'm honestly surprised that they announced it as early as they did.
No, for sure.
Because we know it's happening. Cool, when's the next news about it? 3 years? Because we've known that The Rock is gonna be Black Adam for at least 2 years now, and we're just barely getting what's a general synopsis of the film.
Yeah, definitely. And also, I won't lie, I think there was a lot of confusion, at least on my end, and we kind of talked about it a little bit during the fandom podcast, of what the hell is even Black Adam gonna be? Is it Black Adam and the Justice Society of America? Or is it in there throwing around the word anti-hero? Black Adam isn't an anti-hero. Like, maybe they just need to go back to the drawing board, and that could be what they are doing. This could be an equivalent to like a Deadpool situation, right? In the initial, is Fox gonna greenlight Deadpool, situation, and maybe Rock is putting in his 2 cents now, maybe he has been this whole time. I mean, obviously we don't know what goes on behind closed doors, but it's a very interesting conversation to talk about because that explanation felt very muddy. Why would Black Adam be with the Justice Society of America? 2 completely different eras. Like,
no, yeah.
While simultaneously having the Justice League around, I'm confused.
Yeah, it's kind of like having, I don't know, like it's kind of like having Imperial Japan and modern day Japan coexist, because it's wildly different generations.
No, they are. And if, for those of you who don't know, Justice Society of America is basically like the older version of the Justice. If Justice League is modern, Justice Society of America is like what would you say, like the 20s, right? Something like that?
It was generally the early to mid to maybe late even 1900s right now with the current timeline.
Okay, then,
or I guess a better way to like make that distinction is, if the Justice Society is the League of Nations, the Justice League is the UN.
But regardless, those are still completely 2 different eras within the comic book continuity. So that was very confusing. So, I mean, they could just be going back to the drawing board and say, hey, we got to fix whatever the hell this is going on. Because I know I was confused. I was seeing a lot of chatter on Twitter being like, what? Shit was weak sauce, dog.
Yeah. Honestly, it was so weak, I would have preferred they just hadn't said anything.
I agree, because now
I would rather have had speculation.
Now we're having this
just a wild disappointment.
Exactly. Now we're having this conversation of we're not getting a Black Adam, a villain movie. We want a fucking villain movie, like with Joker, right? Like we want a villain movie, but we'll see. Yeah. We'll see as more things get announced. And God, I hope they're making the right decisions. Obviously, like Boom said, it is probably COVID related, but I hope that the right decisions are being made. And I guess we'll see come 2023 when all this has already come out, and I'm 24 years old at that point.
Yeah,
Boom and I will be 24. That seems like an eternity from now. Anyways,
shut your mouth.
Anyways, so the one of the other things we're talking about news wise is the fact that our boy Jamie Foxx has been recasted as Electro in Spider-Man 3, which, by the way, is going to start filming here very soon. What the fuck? That was my first reaction, was, why did they recast Jamie Foxx? And also, Boom and I had the podcast where we speculated Kraven the Hunter. So now I'm wondering...
I'm disappointed.
Well, no, yeah.
I don't want Electro.
No, yeah. No, I get it.
We had Electro. It's like Spider-Man 3. Right, where we had Goblin.
Oh, yeah.
And they gave us another Goblin in 3. And I guess it's also like in The Amazing Spider-Man, how they were getting ready to give us Goblin again.
Well, yeah, because that's how Gwen Stacy died, yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm not a huge fan of them reusing the same villains when we know damn well Spider-Man has arguably the best rogues gallery in comics.
I would say it's comparable to Batman, honestly, man. Like, he has so much, dude.
It's a fire rogues gallery.
Yeah, I mean, that's why Sony does not want to let go of Spider-Man, because Spider-Man has Rhino, he has Carnage, he has Venom, he has all of these iconic villains already, that it's like you can make your own universe out of just everything that he has to offer. So, and I'm with Boom on this. It kind of sucks to hear that they're not doing, like you said, they're not doing a different villain. But I saw some speculation on Twitter about how it's possible that they're gearing up to do a Sinister Six. The movie's going to be a Sinister Six movie.
It could be a Sinister Six movie.
With bringing in with bringing in Electro and with all of the other villains we've been introduced to slowly but surely within the universe, that's what some speculation I've seen. What do you think, Boom?
I think that that's the case because ever since like the first one, Homecoming, I mean, there's been kind of like this trickle in of different Sinister Six specific villains coming into the movies and us knowing that they exist in the world. Like, I think Homecoming showed us that, well, is Shocker dead? No, Shocker isn't dead. It was the original Shocker that died and then he got replaced.
Yeah, he's alive.
So we have Shocker, Vulture, Scorpion, who's in prison with Vulture, Mysterio, and then I guess 5 would end up being Electro.
Yeah. So then we're missing one more.
We're missing one, and I mean that could honestly be anyone. I don't think it could be a Goblin, thank God, because no Osborns have like been involved in any of the movies.
Yeah. Well, I feel like we'll keep going. Sorry, you're right.
And like as far as we know, there's also not like a big Osborn presence in like the MCU to begin with. Like we haven't seen any buildings or anything like that.
Right. Or right. Like we did in Man of Steel, we saw Wayne Industries, and yeah.
Yeah. Like if anyone was going to bring up Osborn, it was either going to be Peter or Tony.
Right. And here's the thing. Like I'll say this about the Amazing Spider-Man. Although I agree, bringing back villains after we've already had them is kind of because it feels like you're not exploring the massive rogue gallery, like Boom said, Spider-Man. But Jesus, if you were gonna do the Gwen Stacy, the night Gwen Stacy died or whatever, like the goblins are very important to that storyline. So yeah. Yeah, so you kind of have to in that situation, but I'm sorry, continue.
And I think that last 6th slot is either going to be Kraven or Doc Ock.
Dude,
Or we could even go as like, well, I don't want this, but we could do the Lizard instead. And the Lizard and Ock are kind of interchangeable, since both of them kind of have that mentor to rogue relationship with Peter.
Yeah.
In like different eras of his life.
Mm-hmm.
So both of those could fit in like the same slot, honestly. They're interchangeable characters, to be completely honest. I think that Connors is more interesting.
As a character?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think with Ock, you have to like explore some of the Superior Spider-Man stories to get some really good character Spider-Man moments out of Ock.
Honestly,
but it's even, like, a lot of the time where it's even like Ock as Octopus, it's Ock as Spider-Man.
Peter. Yeah. So, I mean, for everyone who doesn't know what Superior Spider-Man is, Superior Spider-Man was a run where Doc Ock took over Peter's body to be Spider-Man, and
because he thought he could do a better job.
Because he thought, yeah, exactly. And so we come to obviously he did not do a better job, but we see a lot into his psyche, and we see a lot into how he is as a human, and how much Peter actually holds back, which I think is very important to him as a person. I mean, there is this one panel, where Doc Ock first gets into the swing of things. I'm so good. And he punches Rhino square in the jaw, punches his jaw clean off, and didn't even use that much strength. So it's like, it's one of those things, right? You kind of explore some things that you hadn't explored before as a reader. So if you're interested, I would highly recommend Superior Spider-Man. Anyways, so back to theorizing who the 6th villain will be. I think it's a shame that we won't have like a Venom or like a Carnage in there. I mean, all the Venom and Carnage
until he moves back over to Sony.
Right, but Venom and Carnage they probably deserve their own movies with him separately, because, I mean, they are, if you, including the Goblins, they are the most iconic villains that Spider-Man has. But yeah. I would like to see Kraven, man. I would love to see Kraven.
Begging for Kraven for years.
I know, and I'm kind of with you on this train, man.
I'm so upset that they're not gonna close it out with
a Kraven specific storyline,
because that would have been fire. But I think my whole thing with that is I don't want to be like, oh, they didn't do exactly what I wanted, so I'm gonna be mad about it. Am I upset? Yes. Is it? Am I like, I'm not gonna watch this movie? Absolutely not. I'm gonna watch it regardless. What do I care?
I love Spider-Man, dude. Spider-Man is one of my fucking favorites. Anyway,
And I mean, I'll watch whatever they make.
absolutely,
I just really wanted it to be Craven because I've been wanting that for years.
And I think that while I do agree with you, I do think that Craven should be the next villain, just because it feels like if they're gonna go towards the Sinister Six thing, that it's gonna be a situation where there's a bounty on his head, and someone has hired or whatever, or maybe they team up to take him down because they're so pissed by the end of the movie that they're like, all right, time to team up to take this motherfucker down. And so Craven would be a good answer to throw a villain into the fray, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, for like a because a lot of like who's already pretty much on that roster are all villains with super massive egos, and that's like the problem in the comics, that they all have massive egos that they can't work together well.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's in the comics. On like in a film, I don't know if they could translate that dynamic between just a roster of a Sinister Six and not have it be super annoying.
Well, the one thing that Marvel's done well, and I'm not gonna say Marvel, I'm gonna go ahead and say the Russo brothers have done well, is juggle a lot of characters, and hopefully Marvel and everyone who's written the scripts and stuff has learned from it, and maybe we'll see some of that in
because
that
the last
movie.
time we had like that kind of dynamic was Avengers 1, and I didn't like the dynamic between the Avengers and the first Avengers.
I get you, and I understand why, but again, right, like you were saying,
I hope they've learned their lesson though.
I mean, it seems like they've been doing well since then.
Yeah, no,
with the Russo brothers.
Sure.
But again, I'm gonna keep saying it. It was the Russo brothers, but James Gunn has also done really well with Guardians of the Galaxy as well. So I there's definitely hope for them juggling all these characters and it working well. There just needs to be, and who knows, maybe this will be answered soon. There needs to be a central character that is in essence like the leader, or is the one calling the shots.
And it cannot be Electro. There's no way that it's Electro.
He's a clown in the comics. He's he's
a joke.
He is, and like, while I would love to see him be badass in the movie, and maybe he will be, there needs that last character assuming it's Sinister Six, needs to be like a Doc Ock, needs to a smart character. And who knows, maybe they'll do like a situation where it's someone we've known for a while and they have this upbringing to become whatever X, Y, and Z villain, right? So
watch it be Ned.
Oh my god, shut the fuck up. On that note, we're moving on. No, yeah, so we'll see. We'll definitely see. And I'm really excited. They're going to start filming super soon, so I'm excited to see what comes out of what happens with that. But one of the bigger things that has happened in terms of news is the today, actually, the day we're recording this, Resident Evil has officially announced a reboot, and there's already casting that we didn't even know about. Robbie Amell is playing your boy Chris, and they're going based off of the first two games, dude, and that's awesome.
And I'm excited because the original string of movies had basically nothing to do with the games.
No, and that sucks because I mean, we play the games, right? Like, I love Leon and Chris, like they're awesome, and I was
for Chris.
Yeah. No, I understand, but there was what I would love to see, and this is way in the future, dude. So be like, Louis, shut the fuck up. But this is way in the future. But what I really like in Resident Evil 6, like what I really liked was that they had that little like exchange, that fight exchange for a second. I'm like, dude, I would love to see that. In the movies way down the line, assuming this works out, because a lot of the times we have movies that come from video games and they just don't do well. Right. But I'm so psyched because I like the actors. I like Robbie Amell. I think a lot of the stuff he does is really good, and I enjoy him. So we'll see, right?
Suddenly now we're getting a lot of traction on things coming out for like movies and TV from Capcom. So obviously the Resident Evil, but we also got we've known that the Monster Hunter movie was happening, but we just recently got the trailer for that.
Yeah.
And I hated it. I thought it was terrible. I thought the monster looked cool because obviously they're using the monsters from the games, but they're doing this thing that feels like they're going in the direction of the original Resident Evil movie string, where we're going to take the elements that we like and throw it into whatever else that we're doing. Because it's not even like Monster Hunter, it's the US military fighting the monsters from Monster Hunter. And that's kind of it, with Mila Jovovich.
I love Mila Jovovich, though. Anyways.
There's also, I think there's a Mega Man movie or show coming out, too.
Jesus. Well, I am excited for Resident Evil. We've said it before. We love these games here, so we'll keep a close eye on it. But for now, that's really all the stuff that has come out about it. Is the casting. Robbie Mill being Chris is the biggest one, and just that they're basing it off the first two games, right?
Yeah, they're basing it off of Resident Evil 1 and 2, so the mansion and then kind of like the beginnings of the outbreak of Raccoon
City. Yeah. Yep. So that's gonna be awesome, and I can't wait for them to do 4. Like, that'll be fucking awesome, dude.
I want them to do. Well, obviously, they would probably end up being like right after, but I'd be really excited for 3.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, I get you. I love.
And honestly, just because I
dude.
want an on-screen nemesis.
Oh yeah. No,
I like Mr. X. I like Mr. X fine.
Yeah.
But Nemesis is fire.
Well, I guess just 4 was just an iconic game, especially for me.
4 is just really good.
Yeah. So I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna translate well to a film, right? So
yeah, so
we'll see. We'll see. But moving on. Right now, it is October the 6th, and you know what that means? Boom.
What does it mean?
It's spooky time, baby. So.
Oh shit! Is it?
Yes, sir.
7 o'clock.
Spooky time. So Boom and I have compiled a list of our most favorite gruesome moments. Maybe not necessarily our favorites, but just handpicked ones that we really wanted to talk about and enjoy. Maybe talk about their societal impacts and what it meant for the characters, whatever going through said things. Because we love talking about this. I mean, we have a whole podcast dedicated to comic book stuff. But yeah, we're gonna talk about some of that stuff. So I'll go first, Boom, and then you can go after, and then we'll just keep going that way. How about that? How's that sound?
Back and forth.
Nice. So, here's the thing. We all know I'm a huge fan of the Death of Gwen Stacy, that whole comic book series. So, in the early 2000s, I don't know if you remember this, Boom, they did The Amazing Spider-Man Sins Past, where they kind of talk about their Gwen Stacy prior to her death, and all that stuff. And so I'm going to give a bit of a quick history lesson here with the whole Gwen Stacy dying thing. So back in the day when Spider-Man was in his early days, Stan Lee had stopped writing it. They brought in this new kid, 19 years old, who was going to write it. And there was this realization that Mary Jane and Pete had already been together, but they had broken up. They had their problems, whatever. Now Pete and Gwen Stacy were together. They came to the realization that Gwen Stacy and Peter's relationship was too perfect, right? Like they said in the writer's room, "Oh my, we need to hurt this man. Like it's going too well for him. Like he has this awesome girl that he can vent to and talk to." And she's amazing, and they're amazing with each other. He's kicking ass as Spider-Man. Someone needs to die. So they were talking about killing off Aunt May or Gwen Stacy. And of course, history, they killed Gwen Stacy. And so now, fast forward to where we are now, to the early 2000s, they did The Amazing Spider-Man Sins Past. And it's so weird, dude. It's so fucking weird. This is not a good comic by any means, but just what they wrote is just weird, dude. Like, Gwen Stacy literally has sex with Norman Osborn, right? She has sex with... It's more of a thriller, like, makes your body, like, crawl. Like, when I was reading it, I was like, oh, dude, I fucking hate this. Especially because I like Gwen Stacy a lot. And, they have sex or whatever. She becomes pregnant with his twins, dude. Right? And it's so gross because in the comic, when they're, having relations, there's Norman Osborn's face, right? And then it kind of like goes back and forth between showing Norman Osborn's face and then his face as the Green Goblin, right? So it's kind of like just imagine the Green Goblin having sex, bro. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, and
At
it's
his age? No.
yeah, it
With
was
someone
gross.
who's potentially underage?
I They might have been. I don't even.
I don't
Yeah,
remember. I don't remember if they were like still. I think they were still in high school.
maybe they might have just graduated. Actually, I can't remember right now. But no, yes, you're correct. Someone who is extremely young, and yeah. In addition to that, obviously she dies, and all this stuff comes out about her cheating on Peter. And Norman Osborn, in an attempt to silence her because she was gonna go tell Peter everything, kills her and kills the twins that she was gonna have that were Norman Osborn's babies because she felt bad. Dude, I fucking that and even now critics say that that has to be the worst Spider-Man storyline because it makes no goddamn sense. There's continuity issues. Most people say it doesn't exist, but I chose to talk about it because just what the story means to me, the original story, and in reading that and learning about that shit was just like god awful, and I just hated it. I just fucking hated it. It makes my skin crawl. Anyways, I'm done talking about it. Your turn, Boom.
Well, before I go on to mine, I actually want to say that my least favorite Spider-Man comic is Spider-Man One More Day. I think that one is probably worse for a couple of reasons, but we can talk about that later.
No. Yeah. Oh yeah, we can. But anyways, yeah, I
But
understand.
I am also going to talk about Spider-Man for one of my picks.
Okay, go ahead.
So, so you remember the guy who wrote the Walking Dead comic?
Yes, I do.
So he wrote the original Marvel Zombies comic run.
Right.
And it was quite good. I enjoyed it. There was a weird spin-off with Evil Dead.
Yeah.
Uh but aside from that, there's some really good moments in there, especially between characters, because the zombies in Marvel Zombies retained their like consciousness,
Oh,
so they
right,
know they
right.
know what they're doing. So it's a different take on the whole zombie thing,
Yeah, for sure.
and it's interesting because it's all that also makes it a lot more horrifying than if they were just like husks. So what happens is I think Spider-Man, after going to, I think what had happened, and I'm like recalling this from my memory because I haven't read this in a long time. Spider-Man goes with the Avengers from Avengers Mansion to where Sentinel, who's infected at this time, fell out of the sky and crashed in the street. And then I remember who he bites, but I remember that Captain America gets infected and turns, and then he bites Spider-Man, who then flees. And then Peter goes home to Aunt May's house, where Aunt May and Mary Jane are both at, and then he ends up consuming both Mary Jane and Aunt May. And it's all very horrifying.
And the two
Especially
people
like,
he loves the most, dude. Oh,
yeah.
dude, that's gotta suck.
And just the first time that I read that, I am not exaggerating. I put it down and I did not go back to it for a year because I was traumatized.
It impacted you that much, huh?
I had to like purge it from my mind. And then after I like came to terms with like the Marvel Zombies storyline being as traumatic as it like originally was, because it gets like less so in like subsequent runs, but when Peter eats Mary Jane and Aunt May, it's just this whole thing that sticks with him for the rest of like that original run, and then some of like the subsequent ones too, that kind of follows that same storyline. I think it's, yeah, so in Marvel Zombies 2, he, at this point, all of like the remaining zombie heroes and villains that are kind of traveling together went into space and ate every living thing in the universe.
Jesus, yeah.
And so what happens is, and this is after they also have acquired the power cosmic after eating Silver Surfer and Galactus. And so they're like flying through space, and eventually what happens is they learn that zombies in I guess of like that strain of zombieism, I'm just gonna call it, will eventually stop what they call the hunger. the hunger subsides after they don't eat someone for so long. And it like crushes Peter to know that things didn't have to play out the way it did, especially once they get to where they go back to Earth and they find that Black Panther who had like effectively set up like I guess a biosphere that pretty much sealed himself and a bunch of other people off from the rest of the infected world. And somewhere during that run, Black Panther gets infected in the middle of a coup, and he turns and he just out of just sheer focus and determination to not eat his wife doesn't.
That's some anime shit, bro.
Yeah. And so, and in Marvel Zombies 3, Peter's like still affected by it in the fact that he still wants to be a hero. He knows that he can't go back to that because of the atrocities that he's committed as a zombie, but from just just bearing the sins of it, like he can't.
Yeah.
And he tries to when he ends up in a different timeline, a different Earth.
Yeah.
And he ends up messing everything up along the way. And so things are just constantly getting worse as he's like, I ate like the two most important people to me and they're both dead, to, oh my God, it didn't have to be like that. I can't be a hero. We can't go back to the way it used to be. Okay, well, maybe I can if I try hard enough and don't look like a zombie. And then just none of it works. It just all falls apart in front of him. And that's crazy because it's really in line and also super out of line with who Peter is as a character. Because Peter as a character could never commit the atrocities that he did in Marvel Zombies if he weren't a zombie. So taking that Peter and bearing those sins gives us an extremely vulnerable Peter that kind of, and I think out of like all of the runs that Spider-Man's had, gives us the most, like the clearest picture that we can have of how good a person that Peter tries to be.
Yeah, well, I mean, even in the Civil War comics, Peter is the heart and soul of the whole damn thing. I mean, he's always the heart and soul. He is what people aspire to be. You know, but
despite him being undead and a zombie, he's easily the most human in the entire Marvel Zombies run.
No, absolutely, but no, yeah. Thanks for sharing that, man. I need to go back and read that, man. I don't remember. I remember the whole eating Silver Surfer thing. I remember that whole thing. I don't remember a lot of these things we would consider about. Like the details we consider about our heroes, right? So thanks for sharing that. But we're gonna go to the next one that I have, and we've heard of the whole Jason Todd thing, right? The whole Jason Todd dies and Joker kills him. But so quick backstory, like I did with the other one. Back in the day, they did not know what to do with Jason Todd Robin, right? So they put out a poll on the newspapers, say, hey, should we kill Jason Todd? Everyone said yes, because no one liked him. He wasn't Dick Grayson. He wasn't that cool. So they did it in the most horrific way you could at that day and age. Have the Joker beat him with the fucking crowbar. And that moment for me is specifically one that's instrumental because the Red Hood is one of my favorite DC heroes, or anti-heroes, excuse me. My favorite DC anti-hero, I think, and one of my favorite DC characters in general. And so that moment, means a lot to me for those reasons, but it's also just kind of horrifying to think, right? Like back in that day, and we mentioned this before, but the night Gwen Stacy died, or, the death of Gwen Stacy is what kind of launched comic books into the era of, okay, now we're going to kill off characters, and now we're going to do bloody things. Now we're going to do shit like that. And I feel like
Marvel, what was it? Max?
Yeah.
Is what came out after that?
Yeah. So, I mean, and DC just kind of also went right into it. And so this is one of those situations where it's horrifying to think about getting beat with a crowbar. But the thing is that Joker and Batman's relationship in itself is just so twisted and scary, and it's like Joker just needs him. Joker needs the Batman. The Batman is the reason the Joker lives. That's his whole well-being. His whole being is tormenting the Batman. So when you kind of consider all of these layers upon layers in these characters, in specifically the Joker in this situation, it's truly terrifying. Like, he went out of his way to kill a child. Granted, Jason was a prick at the time and shouldn't have been, going after him by himself, whatever. But at the end of the day, it happened. And so Joker said, I'm going to kill this kid. I am going to kill this kid. And kills this kid successfully. Blows up a warehouse or whatever after beating him senseless with a crowbar, to the point to where Jason has to be put into the Lazarus pit. And then he's trained by the League of Assassins, and he's trained by the All Cast in the later comics and stuff like that, which that's a huge event in comic book history, because that is a starting off point to the Under the Red Hood series, which then is a jumping off point to Red Hood and the Outlaws, and then you had the whole comic book crossover event between all of the Bat family with Death of the Family. And so not only is that for the time, a truly terrifying moment in comic book history, but it also paved the way for other things to happen, for the Joker to have more storylines, for Jason Todd to have more storylines. So that's my whole thing on Death in the Family. Thank you very much for listening to my TED Talk. Boom, your turn.
Well, I guess my next pick isn't necessarily like a moment. It's the entire run of The Boys. It's the entire 12 volumes of The Boys.
Jesus,
the entire thing is disturbing and horrifying.
I just saw the first episode, by the way, guys. So I'll continue watching it.
It's fire. But The Boys, and I was trying to like pinpoint a moment out of like the stuff that I've read and like the stuff that I know that happens, but I kind of can't, because it's hard to say, oh, so and so thing easily tops this and that, because it's all like horrible adjacent. and I can't like also like talk about some of the worst moments without flat out spoiling like major plot.
Well, that's a big thing right now, because The Boys is a huge series. So if you start spoiling shit, dude, people be mad.
No, yeah, especially because at least right now, all I'm gonna say is that they are adapting like certain plot lines from the comics to the show, not necessarily one for one, but they're taking a lot from the comics, obviously, because it's an adaptation.
Right.
But it's also not a one for one, so I don't want to say a moment only for it to like happen in the show this season or like next season or something like that. Like ruin potential plot lines. So I won't talk about specific moments, but I will say the whole thing is messed up from just beginning to end.
And I believe it, man. After seeing that first episode, shit was pretty gruesome. Yeah. Yeah,
no, and I was actually texting you yesterday after you had told me you watched the first episode. The show's at about a 6. The comics are at like an 11. And like just every area. Except I would say they're both as good as the other is, but the original comics are wild.
So would you say it's Boom certified?
With an asterisk. With an asterisk. I wouldn't show this to or like recommend it for anyone who is not cool with insane amounts of gore, graphic content, and maybe a splash of cannibalism, but that's another thing.
Oh Jesus, I know exactly what you're talking about. But yeah, I mean, after seeing that first episode, man, I totally can see that it would be much worse. I mean, there's only so much you can put on a TV show, so I imagine.
Yeah, it's just all of it is just kind of a moral deficit.
Speaking of moral, let's do this last one that I have, and then we're gonna run out of time. But speaking of moral shit, we're gonna stay on the Joker train. Boom. And the Killing Joke, right? The Killing Joke is would you say it's a masterpiece, Boom?
The original comic is. The movie's like maybe a B minus or a C plus.
Well, because they had the bat sex, bro. That shit sucked.
We
It
didn't.
was
We didn't need
weird.
anything to do with no bat sex. We didn't need that.
We did not need that. Anyways, just
The
skip
whole
the first.
first 30 minutes had
I was
nothing
gonna
to do with
say,
anything.
if you're gonna watch The Killing Joke, just skip the first 30 minutes. Anyways.
Skip the first 30 minutes and then keep it moving.
Yep.
It doesn't come back. None of it's important. Just keep
Yeah.
moving.
They just did it for filler. But I would say the Killing Joke comic is pretty much a masterpiece. I just, that was weird. A masterpiece. Everyone knows the storyline, but if you don't know the storyline, definitely go read it. It's very short. It's not long at all. But my last thing is when in the comic, so Joker rolls up to Barbara Gordon and he shoots her, right? And this is when she becomes Oracle, right? She loses her ability to walk. She becomes handicapped. So it's alluded to that Barbara Gordon, after she was shot by Joker, was sexually abused. He took pictures of her naked, hurt, bleeding out, and all that stuff, which is not great, and it's horrifying, and it's villainous, and it's just god awful. Period. And so during this whole thing, Commissioner Gordon was kidnapped by Joker and his goons, and he is forced to go through this carnival ride, while stripped down naked, mind you, showing pictures of his naked daughter beaten, broken down, shot, bleeding out, in an attempt to break his spirit, in an attempt for Joker to prove a point, right? And just to prove a point, Joker ruined a girl's life in Barbara Gordon, making her handicapped. She can't be Batgirl anymore. And scarred Commissioner Gordon for the rest of his life, literally broke him down to be whatever he was at that point, just to prove a point. He did some horrific shit. Like, The Killing Joke in itself is a very controversial comic book because of these things, because there's implementation of sexual harassment, because there is the idea of, I am going to do these horrific things just to prove a point. Just to prove to you, Batman, that no one is good. Everyone can lose their mind at one bad day. One bad day, right? So if you have the chance, if you have the ability, definitely read The Killing Joke. It's honestly really good, but there are some very graphic things in there. It's one of those, like Boom said, if you're very squirmish to these things, if you're very uncomfortable with even the allusion to certain things, I would definitely stray away from a lot of huge Joker storylines, because a lot of them tend to be like that. But yeah,
at least a lot of like the really big ones.
Yeah, a lot of the really big ones, correct, tend to be like that. And Killing Joke is the biggest one, I think, that leans towards the rated R spectrum of, if it were to be adapted into a movie, that would be rated R. Absolutely, it would have to be. There's just no way around it. But Boom, what's your last one?
My last one is Carnage USA, and I picked this not because it's a really scary run. It's a really tense run, and it gets really creepy. I picked this one because this is one of the scarier moments that Carnage inflicts on the Marvel comic universe.
Yeah.
Up till that point, right? I haven't read Maximum Carnage yet, but Carnage USA is a short. I would call it a crossover event, just because the Avengers get involved. So what happens is Carnage ends up in a rural, just small town, and he pretty much spreads himself out throughout the entire town, infecting everyone with the symbiote. And then Spider-Man, Captain America, Hawkeye, the Thing, Ben Grimm, and Wolverine. And then those heroes, except for Spider-Man, all end up being infected too. And I didn't know how little I needed to see a Carnage, Thing, Wolverine, Hawkeye, and Captain America. Because that was troubling, to say the least. And it was also, like, borderline wild to think that Carnage just kind of has that power to just override and take people over like a virus.
And I think, if I can jump in here real quick, Cletus Cassidy is just, I mean, he's on par with Joker just with how menacing he is without the symbiote. Like, he is already a serial killer without the symbiote. So,
yeah,
food for thought, you know?
And so then all of that happens, and then they have the United States government realizes it's like a national threat at this point. And so they call in Agent Venom to go do that, and that was really cool. But it was definitely troubling to see like carnageized like children as well, because they all just became like a hive mind.
Yeah,
it was really creepy. It was like it's the same vibes that I got from not like to the same extreme from like Marvel zombies, just Marvel characters not being themselves because of a tertiary force controlling them. And it's just kind of this weird skin crawly thing.
Yeah, it's one of those things, right? Like, comic books can be scary, but all of these things that we've talked about are super, like, skin crawly, thriller, heart pounding things. And of course, there are scary moments, truthfully, within comics that you're like, oh, that was kind of bad. But it's, again, it's one of those things, right? Like, what do you find scary in these comics?
Yeah.
What do
and
you
for
find
me, a lot
scary?
of the time, and there's kind of like this kind of similarity between all of my picks. It's just all of the perversion of what comic book superheroes are like supposed to be, right?
No, yeah. I mean, the Boys is a good example of that.
Yeah, the Boys is an example. An extraordinary example of that, and like in Homelander, and I mean, you've already like kind of seen Homelander, but Homelander is kind of like Superman if he were an authoritative sexual deviant.
Yeah, absolutely. Really, yeah, I understand what you're saying. That makes so much sense. And I mean, like Boom is saying, you know, it's kind of like when I play Outlast 2 and I'm really fucking scared to be inside of the school because you're not used to that. Like, it's just so unsettling to be in a school quiet with no one in there. Like, it's very, very scary. It's the contrast to what you are usually in when you're in a school, right? There's people
and so your
around
brain
you.
freaks out.
Yeah, it's that whole conversation. And the thing with all of mine is that none of them were necessarily super scary, but the Joker stuff is very unsettling. And just the idea of something can be very unsettling, and they're huge. A lot of two of them were big aspects of comic book history, which at the time had to have been scary. At the time, they had to have been one of the worst things that has happened in comics. So, well, thank y'all for hanging out. Thank y'all for listening this long. If you have, next week we're going to be talking some Star Wars, and we might have a special guest, Boom. So you're not going to be the only one I'm talking to next week. Yeah. So stay tuned for that, because we're gonna talk some Star Wars and probably shit on the last movie. Anyways, okay, bye. Love you.